guess what?
What?
Heidi ho, campers! Oh, I was loud. Whoops. Sorry for your ears if that was too
What
loud.
happened to huzzah?
I usually say that in my personal life.
Oh.
I only use Heidi ho campers, specifically that phrase, when welcoming
You have to
our fellow campers.
compartmentalize. Yeah.
Well, I just want to protect the two different versions of myself from each other. Like, y'all can vouch. Podcast Chase is very different from regular Chase. Regular
Also,
Chase is usually
Let's delve
angry,
into that.
slightly bitter. Podcast Chase is fairly happy, just excited to be here, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah, I can confirm.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. That's good.
Going with that energy, let's all get a little upset. How about that?
Yeah, I read the notes for where we're headed today, and it just felt like a little combination of a soapbox and a trap.
Yep.
Let's hand Ben a soapbox.
Yeah, if you want to,
Very
here's
elusive.
everything you need to know about this episode. Austin was extremely bummed that he wasn't on it. So
I
some
bet.
spices coming in. Not cumin, not onion powder, but like cayenne pepper spice. At least that's what Avery told me.
Hot ones, that kind of spice.
Great show.
Yes.
Great show. We've
Yeah.
already recommended it
We
before.
should
So
don't
do.
stop watching.
We should do an episode like that.
I think Austin would do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I'd do it. I would just
I'd be the camera
die.
guy. I'd gladly be the camera
I'm way
guy.
too chicken. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all chicken.
Yeah, it's
do
chicken
cauliflower.
wings, but
That's what Paul Rudd did. Anyway, go watch that episode.
hey, look at us.
Look at us. Who would have thought? Great meme. Anyway, we're spiraling. All right. I think we're just avoiding the topic.
Yeah, this is
If we
this
keep-
feels so much like a
If we
first
keep
date.
quoting things, can we avoid the topic?
Yes.
Yeah, quote it for just 20 minutes straight, and then suddenly we'll be in.
That's
Iowa.
podcast.
All right. I'm going to read verbatim what I sent you guys. Is that all right? Just
Yeah.
because I don't want to, I think it's easier to do that than just try and summarize it.
I
Even
do
though-
believe though that with the layers in this, we're gonna have to go back and like talk about each part of it probably. But it's good
That's
to
fine.
get the whole thing at
That,
once.
yeah, I tried. Yeah, I wasn't trying to make it all one bullet point and like, all right, go. Like we can
Yeah.
break it down however we
Yeah.
need to. All right. Thinking back through your time in church when you were younger, or essentially just before vertical time, what were the things that the church stood for or were participating in, etc., that really frustrated you? Church meaning either that church specifically or, as Christians call it, Big C Church. As always, don't name the church, but you can give specifics if you want. Just I wouldn't say the name, so we don't roast people. Except for Westboro Baptist Church, we'll roast them every day of the week because they suck.
Are they still a thing?
I think so. I think they're
Wow.
just
I don't know if
there's
I know
so
what that
many
is.
like them that aren't at the church anymore. Then it's just
Yeah.
they're kind of white noise now.
Okay, not it.
Avery was the most excited to talk today.
Excited? I don't know about that.
Tell us, Avery. You kind of dove off into it when you first shared your story, but you didn't give us any kind of specifics except for like off the mic a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you already know what I was going to talk about? I didn't even tell you.
I just know you. We're friends.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Avery.
Yeah, so I think that one thing, it's not anything in particularly like that my specific church that I grew up in stood for. I think it's how this topic was perceived. And so
I'm intrigued.
specifically being like depression and anxiety and mental illness just in general, it was kind of I guess I was always taught that it was a bad thing and it was a sin and that it comes from like a lack of trusting God and like
Get over it.
that like there wasn't really help available and that like medicine and counseling was like a weak thing.
Yeah.
And I think that was also society as a whole. I think there was a lot of stigma around that, and I think that like mental health awareness has come a long way in the past 10 years, and the church as well. But yeah, like that, I think that was the most frustrating thing for me, as someone who's personally dealt with some of those things. So
Yeah. Well, what did it look like for you to be frustrated with it? I assume this is high school, Avery, because you're not that old.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I just didn't know. It just was never talked about. And so I didn't know that like help was available and how to like deal with everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that's kind of vague, but
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. People like either they don't know that help is available
Mm-hmm.
or even further than that, they don't know that Christian teaching based help is available.
Yes,
you know,
for sure. And like, I guess from the way that the church viewed it, I learned that like it was a shameful thing, and that it was a bad thing. And so I think it was hard for me to talk about it or like get help because I always thought it was this horrible thing that I was going to get judged for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
It is pretty amazing how the church can just completely remove entire blocks of the biblical narrative to support its presuppositions that something's bad and pick other things out of the Bible to prove that they're right. I mean, that's kind of like, because of where we have grown up, I think that's probably the largest cancer in our Christian society in the American South, which I talk about all the time, partly because I want us to be honest about Christianity in the American South.
Yeah.
Because we better start being honest because it's on full display very often in very negative light. But I mean, thinking back, like I'm just extending a lot of like compassion for being trapped in that place. I mean, what about David? I mean, what about the Psalms? I just don't understand. This guy's like, I feel so wronged and hurt and in anguish about this. I want you to, God, I want you to kill these people's children. Yeah. Like, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a heavy thought.
That is a heavy thought. You know, it isn't like, oh, I didn't get to check that I brought my Bible to church today. I'm so upset. Yeah. Like, this guy's trapped and doesn't really know how to get out and is asking some really horrific things of God, whom he knew.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just completely, I think it may be fear-based though, right? I mean, do you think the people that, can I ask a question? Can I push a little?
Yeah.
That's something we do here, by the way, is people who are
listening. Can I push
like,
you a little bit?
Yeah, it's like, and the answer could be no. Like, I don't want to say any more about that, so that's fine. But do you feel like fear had a big role in that? The people who are like, oh, we can't talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a scary thing especially for people who don't like understand it. But do you mean like fear from my perspective and like of how people would see it, or like fear from like, what do you mean specifically fear?
Yeah, no, not from your side. Yeah, that would be disrespectful, I think, for me to be that aggressive with that question. I'm being aggressive towards the people who did not acknowledge that there are resources available, that it's a real thing, that it's not extra biblical, it's actually very biblical.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it just kind of exposes, I think, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. The church hurts people out of fear, which is completely contradictory. I mean, the Bible's full of admonition to not be afraid and to be courageous. But, I mean, we're broken and flawed people. I think that's something we should probably say before we get too far down the road in this episode.
Yeah.
That we acknowledge that the church is constructed. The foundation is Jesus Christ, for sure. But the framework of the church is actually the people who are helping to run it and operate it, and their faith or lack thereof, or their understanding or lack thereof, maturity, lack thereof, cultural context, all that stuff comes into play.
For sure.
I think there's a misconception that the church is supposed to be a perfect place. We do have a perfect message, but it's delivered by imperfect people.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that runs over a lot of us. But we're three that have stuck it out. We're still in it, and these pains we were able to get past. And I think, I'm just assuming, so maybe you could correct me here, that you did find a place that was Christian and willing to acknowledge mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so you're able to find the answer within the construct that actually ignored it in the first place. You know, can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
I really do mean. Chase is like, he doesn't care if you say no. He's gonna. So, did you spend a significant amount of time disillusioned by that, or are you one of those like bootstrappers? Like, okay, well, they say I shouldn't be this way, so I'm not. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think going back to what I said earlier, like I think it was something that I felt a lot of shame about. So it was hard for me to talk about and get help because I always thought it was a shameful thing. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess what I was asking was how pissed were you at the church? That's what I should have said it that way.
I think I've been more angry about it now that I am older and I understand kind of more what I was going through, and like I have gotten help and like things like that. I think it's made me a little angrier now because I'm like this. Like if it would have been talked about more, I think I wouldn't have waited so long, or I wouldn't have felt this way for so long. And I mean, that's a huge part of why, like, I'm pretty passionate about students, because I know that I really needed someone to be there for me and tell me that it was okay and that I wasn't crazy, and all of that. And like, I mean, if I could be that for one person, like that's enough.
Yeah, well, that's great motivation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I love the fact that we're able to talk honestly about the church and go all the way around the issue and get to that part of the process. We do believe that the church is the last best hope of the world.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting. I've been in a lot of arguments. Maybe we could go here for just a minute if that's okay, Chase.
Go for it.
This is Ben's podcast now.
What comes after when Ben says he's been in a lot of arguments? Let's narrow it down to just this issue. I've been in a lot of arguments where people have said to me, and even well-meaning people, hey, you're really hard on the church, man. Mm-hmm. You're not doing good things for the church in the way that you're talking about it, because people could just listen to you speak and it could confirm their suspicions or confirm their history. And I just don't fall on that side, because I'm going to choose people first. And I think God gives us that example. He's going to choose people. I mean, the way the system has changed over the years. And so I think it's our responsibility to talk honestly about the church so that we can make the church better.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an ignorant take from those people, because, I mean, who are the two most prevalent people in the New Testament? One, Jesus, but then after that, I think Paul, probably, given how much he contributed to it.
Yeah.
Like, probably 70 to 75% of what they were doing was calling out what was going on, either by religious people or people that were claiming the faith and were getting it wrong. I think that's, Philip talked about that all the time. Philip Thurman, founder of the church. You shouldn't care about your reputation, but it does matter because it does precede you. And that doesn't go for just us as people, but that goes for the church. That's kind of what you were getting at with the whole Capitol stuff, Ben. Like, for whatever you think politically about it, like the biggest embarrassment and disappointing thing about it all is that the name of Jesus was being proclaimed while stuff like that was happening.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you should be upset about.
Mm-hmm.
What's even more ridiculous is that God allows it.
Yeah.
I can't figure that out.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, well, you're going to take the cross out. Like, he has extended to us that much freedom.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I have a whole construct about why that is important, but it still baffles me the things that God allows us to do in his name. And I think we're constantly keeping that in mind, because we're talking on this episode today, maybe the most valuable thing we've said with Vertical Plus, the way the church has damaged us. Mm-hmm. And now we are sitting around this very table designing systems and ways to be as a community, trying to combat that. And even still, we hurt people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Like it comes full circle. Like this is how like the church has hurt me, but now it's motivated me to change that, or like, to be different, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the current commitment we have is just to honesty, vulnerability. We've studied that a lot as a staff, and I think God's brought it to us for a very particular reason. As I look back over the things that have hurt me, it's been a lack of vulnerability, a commitment to propping up the system instead of meeting the person. A lot of that was going on. I'm significantly older than the two of you, which we've discussed already today.
I think
off
if you
mic.
Put our ages together, you're still older.
I'm still older.
Not actually.
Yeah, maybe
almost though.
Maybe
it's
we should
close.
let's poll the audience about Mother Hubbard. Let's see how many people are.
We're going into a little bit of pre-podcast discussion.
Yeah, we had to Google that.
But I think it's important to bring up, because I came through church in Mississippi when we're obviously post-civil rights, but we've hit the 80s, post-Carter, we've hit the 80s, Reagan's in office, and it just feels like all is right with the world. And all the churches you visit now that have balconies that are empty, they were full then. And we were all dressing in suits and ties. My mom used to give me a little clip-on tie to go to Sunday school when I was, still getting juice and crackers, and I've got the tie. It was just like this golden age of alignment. But I think something invaded the church at that time that led to the things that you guys have experienced. I know, Chase, we'll get to yours in a moment.
Yeah.
But we live on a timeline, and our history matters, and where we've come from dictates how we view our present, and it can change and alter how we go into our future. And we're people that are standing on the line inside of a church saying we really believe in the Church of Jesus Christ enough to be critical about it, to fine tune it, and to stake our lives on it.
Yeah.
We're all in. Like, we don't have any side jobs that really would pay our bills.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this. We're going to try to refine the system. We're going to try to create a safe place for people. It's ever present on my mind that people could tune into these things and be like, man, those are the same people that hurt me. But that's where that honesty and that vulnerability comes in. Like, yeah, we don't get everything right.
Yeah.
That's not something I heard from the people that were running the churches I grew up in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you answering the question of your history right there?
I have two specific examples if we have time for me to.
Yeah, I think ours will be, I don't think they'll be exactly the same, but I think they will share some similarities.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm giving a little bit of practice here at being brief with saying.
I believe in you.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey, everybody's rooting for me.
Set a timer.
Yeah, so, right. When I came into faith, knowledge of Jesus and belief in Jesus, it wasn't very long before I ran into the Southern Baptist machine. There's so much about the Southern Baptists that I'm so thankful for. As a group of people, they really believe in the Bible. They have some incorrect beliefs about the Bible that have been handed to them, but the fact is, I will be a man who dies valuing Scripture because that group of people very much values the Bible. Mm-hmm. So I'm thankful for that. But I ran into a situation when I was in student ministry where a friend of mine his life was off the rails. And looking back, I think a lot of stuff was going on inside of his home. I'm figuring that out about most people, that their life was off the rails at a very early age. But we went to a student camp, long story short, and he had an experience with God, and it was very real. I saw it. And the first thing that he was told to do after that was to take his cigarettes that he was hiding in his room and throw them away. And I remember thinking as a student, so we don't have to make this a profanity podcast, I was thinking all of those things. I was just so angry. Because I knew this guy's 15 years old, 16 years old. He's had an encounter with God, and the first thing he receives is, God's not going to accept you unless you get rid of your tobacco products.
Crazy.
Yeah, it made a huge impression on me. Of course, it was the 90s. So, but at any rate, I don't know that guy ever rebounded. The second thing that he tried was pleasing God along that line of changing everything about himself. And it didn't work. And I saw that guy's voice become very, very quiet. And I don't even know where he is today, which I guess that's bad on me for not knowing that. But that was a pretty pivotal moment. Fast forward just a couple of years later, God has gotten my life, and I've committed to go into the ministry, which is a thing that Baptists say, like a full-time vocational.
I've been called to the ministry.
I've been called to full-time vocational ministry, and amen. That's how that goes. So I'm in this scenario, and I have to be very vague with this. A leader in the church asked me to go to lunch. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. I'll go to lunch. Let's see what this guy has to say. And he sits me down at lunch and proceeds to tell me that because of where I'm choosing to be educated, I will never work in the church. And I said, what? and he
Great question.
Yeah. He proceeded to explain himself that because I'm choosing to align myself with certain educational institutions, that I'm basically killing my ministry career before it starts. And if I want to make this right, I need to make some significant changes in who's educating me. Come to find out, he was such a fool because the place where he was trying to send me was teaching things completely against his belief system, as shaky as it was, right? So I got messages very early on in my ministry career that conformity is way more important than truth. And that's something that I think if you were to listen to me teach on a week-to-week basis, I'm fighting that hard. So, and maybe I need to be a little bit less aggressive, or maybe I don't. I'm trying to figure that out.
I think you're right.
So, yeah, those two experiences really inform that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the word I had in mind and what I thought you would talk about and what mine's kind of built around is politics.
Oh yeah,
church politics.
Yeah,
which is the most oxymoron thing. Like that should never go together. But anyway,
hey, proceed with caution. I was a junior deacon in 1996.
Hot dog. Well, I was an RA, so not really. I dropped out. Got the heck out of there. Anyway, my instance. Mine was pretty hard to get over, but mine also had a little bit of silver lining because it made me appreciate somebody that was in my life at the time. So we were part of a really, really small church, but also even smaller youth ministry, which was indicative of problems within itself because people didn't want to come there because of stigma. But while we were there, these 3 African-American guys, high schoolers, except for one, started coming to our church and were coming for, months and months and months. And it was great. We were excited to have them around because it was an extremely segregation historical town. And it was just cool to have them there, honestly. And then as I'm getting ready to graduate, my student pastor at the time told me that he had a conversation with leadership at the church, essentially big-time donors that were quote-unquote deacons of the church, even though it's not the kind of church that calls them deacons.
Yeah.
They had said, we're going to pool our donations to the church, our tithing to the church, if those 3 gentlemen are allowed to continue coming to your church.
This is in the 2000s.
Yes.
Wow.
Somewhere around 2009, 2010.
Wow.
I know.
Listener, let that sink in for a moment.
It's not that long ago.
No.
The cool side of it, where, for better or for worse, the bright side of the politics in this one specific instance is that there was another dude who was leadership at the church who his tithe was greater than all 3 of their tithes combined, said, I'll pull my tithe if we ban those kids from coming to this church.
What a power move.
And man, it made me appreciate the student pastor even more than I already did because he was just baffled and was fighting it, the whole time as much as he could as a student pastor. But also appreciation for leadership, new age, upcoming generation leadership, standing their ground. It was just cool to see, but also incredibly frustrating and almost embarrassing, especially in a time where I was struggling pretty hard with even deciding whether to believe in this whole thing or not, and that happened at the same time. So that took a long time to get over, but it kind of leads me into our next 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, are these frustrations still valid, or do you kind of understand them at this point? So my answer would be incredibly valid.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But not all things that, we're frustrated with the church early on. A lot of times it can just be ignorance in our own personal vindications and stuff like that. Not always, but sometimes there are. Is that a situation for you guys, or is there forgiveness there for lack of compassion or something like that, or just ignorance during that time, or what?
You go first.
I mean, it's not perfect now, but the church has come a long way with talking about mental health stuff, and it's been more normalized by society, which I think has contributed to that. But I mean, yeah, it's a hard topic, and I can understand why churches would choose to not talk about it, because there's a lot of stigma around it. But I mean, it is something that still frustrates me, but it's getting better. Yeah.
So this is going to shock the listening audience, but I have very little sympathy it's just my personality.
Yeah.
And I should say, I feel this way about myself when I realize retrospectively I was wrong about something, which is usually when that happens. And I need to extend forgiveness to myself. I'm very slow to do that. I think more often than, hey, forgive yourself, I think you should have known better. And that's predominantly how I feel about the type of churches that I grew up in that were pushing that sort of mentality. And I think it's necessary, although my reputation here at Vertical hasn't been that as such, like Philip that you mentioned earlier, he was the reformer, Greg was the reformer. I haven't really put myself in that camp until maybe recently. And maybe it has something to do with sitting in the lead pastor chair that does that to you. But I feel like in order to be a reformer, you can't be too soft on the past. Yeah. And I don't mean that I'm still angry at the people. Yeah. Like the people who participated in the cigarette discussion, they're beautiful people and they have kept in touch with me and been very encouraging. Like, I'm not angry at the people. I'm angry at the system that allowed it. And
those thoughts and those mindsets are standing on generations of ignorance. Yeah. With these topics, I feel like.
Yeah. And they deserve reform. I mean, I've said from stage over and over again, we're not going to talk about your habits first. We're going to talk about your heart. If God gets your heart, then you and God and this church and this community, we can work on your habits later, not habits then heart. The church has had that very confused. And as far as the racism thing, like, get that out of here. Yeah. Like, there's no excuse for that. And I've heard all of them. Trust me. I've heard all, like, no, you were off, you were wrong, and it needs to be reformed. And we see this, like you mentioned with Paul in the New Testament, we see it in the Old Testament as well. People, like, the scrolls were hidden. They didn't even know where they were. And then they emerge and the whole nation returns to God. Like, wow. And I pretty firmly believe that this is where we're headed right now. I know we're all tired of talking about the pandemic, but it has given us an opportunity to figure out where everyone stands, what's most important to almost everyone in a community, and who's going to help get to the future that I'm hoping is renewal and revival inside of this church, or who's going to be blocking the way and is going to be frustrating us. So I think related to Vertical, there's a part in that question about Vertical, right?
Yes.
Like,
the question is, does Vertical Church participate in these same things, or have we, flipped the script, so to speak?
Yeah. I feel like we've flipped the script a lot, but I do think it creeps back in, because bigotry based on skin color is definitely a problem, but you can also do that based on someone's sexual orientation or their past, because good grief, everyone in this town knows everybody else's business. So
financial status. Yeah,
it just kind of takes on different forms. But I think I would say this, but I think we're attacking it as best we know how.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, like, we're imperfect people trying to relay a perfect message. It's just, it's going to get skewed. It's our job to try to limit that as best we can. And the only way to do that is just to be in connection with the person we're teaching about. That's the only way you keep it a pure message, I feel like.
Yeah. Is it a bad idea to think that, like, so we have ways that we've been hurt and things we've experienced, and we say we are never going to do that. And with more generations that come after generations commit to a list of nevers, then eventually you reduce these things. You can't remove the human element, but these overt things, like, I just cannot foresee a time in the future of the church where it turns on what we know about mental health. Hopefully that's over,
Yeah.
And of course, racism and all that, there'll always be pockets of people
for sure.
that are in this camp. I mean, I've struggled with that myself. And the time that I was on antidepressants, it was like, oh gosh, I can't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, no, let's talk about that, because it helps, to get that out into
I didn't want to be, but I needed to be.
I didn't want to. In fact, I was so resistant to it. My wife and parents put me on them, and I didn't even know it. That they called it like an acid reducer.
You got like pudding every day.
Yeah,
man, I love this pudding.
Like, wow, this just don't feel quite as inflamed anymore. No, you're actually happy and okay to live with.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, yeah, I think it's like, I'm always trying to walk this balance. I don't know, we are as a staff. Like, we actually have this antenna up when we sit down and make plans. Like, okay, how are we participating in this in the way that's going to damage or hurt people?
Yeah.
How do we innovate and fail forward without failing on top of people?
Yeah.
That's a difficult thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, I mean, I'm a lot newer to the church than y'all are, but like, I mean, it's one of the first things I noticed when I started coming here. Like, we are not afraid to attack the difficult conversations. And I mean, I noticed that as soon as I started coming here, and that's something that's like, that really drew me in, and that I really love about Vertical. And like, if anything, since I've been here, I've been like encouraged in like my struggles, and like encouraged to get help, and like, not been, felt like belittled because I'm dealing with these things. Like, I've been encouraged in that. And, I think that's a step in the right direction. For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the follow-up question I have we answered all of your questions?
Yes.
The follow-up question I have is, where do we need to get better? I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's another level of honesty. Like, hey, good job for us, you know, but what's the next thing? Where are we falling short, and where do we need to get better? I don't have an answer like loaded and ready to go, but I think it's an intriguing question.
Yeah.
I feel like the first thing, and it's for people that, you know, people like us that quote unquote get it. Like, we're on board the Jesus train. We kind of understand what we're doing here. I think it's important for us to always first be willing to sit with people in the crap.
Yep.
But the danger is when you just get comfortable in the sitting, and it's just, you know, it's cozy to just be there for people. But I think the step after that is pulling them from the crap and showing where the next steps are.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, especially with the sermon series that I've seen for this upcoming year, 2021, like, I think we're going in the right direction, because a lot of the series, especially the one that we're in right now, Hell or High Water, like, it's a lot of action steps and like no nonsense, like straight to the point. Like, yeah. So I feel like it's going in the right direction.
That's smart. That's good to point out, because it shows a consistency in shortfalls, I think, in my leadership, if I could be that honest, in that the Hangar has experienced this, what we've kind of kicked up for men over the past couple of years. The Hangar has experienced this as well. And I think it's struggling with how to move past that, and how do you challenge people. And I was listening to a guy on a podcast just yesterday on my walk, and he was proposing that the reason why the church is starting to atrophy so much is because we don't challenge anyone. We're not challenging anyone to do difficult things. And people are like, they're looking for that right now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we're providing a soft place to land, and then we don't ever challenge. We're just like continuing to cut up everyone's steak for them and feed it to them. And eventually that feels belittling.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can't apologize for that part of the message of Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I said the other day, good
That's
point.
really good.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't need to be followed, but I'm going to follow it anyway.
Go for it. Wrap it up. And we'll go to the next segment.
I was having a conversation with a guy that really, really challenges me. We were having coffee the other day, and we started talking about masks, which that's like, it's almost fun to talk about that now, because I'm like, there's no way that there's a new angle on this old situation. And he said, you know, if the difficulty of wearing a mask is just too much for you, then someone hasn't been honest enough with you about what it really means to follow Christ. Because you're going to be asked to do way, way more difficult things. And I was like,
get him, Ben.
Wow. Wow. Well, at first I took out my pen. I was like, oh, maybe I should say that from stage. And then I went, you know.
Well, you heard it on the podcast. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, it just kind of separates you out from that. I know that people are doing this based on principle, and I don't want to belittle them. But if you back up from it enough, you realize, like, whoa, following Christ is one of the most difficult things, if I were to be honest, the most difficult things I've ever tried. And I've probably never failed at anything as much as that. But we're going to keep going. Vertical is going to continue to be an incredible place as long as people like us, and people are coming after us, as long as people like us are committed to be guardians of that environment.
Yeah. Woo!
Ooh. Let's get into it.
A little abbreviated version there.
They get it. Ask us anything.
Ask us anything.
But Austin's not here, and I don't want to do it.
Well,
I don't think Ben wants to do it.
I'm not prepared. Are you?
I am.
Yeah.
I guess we'll let Avery do it.
Avery for the win.
Is this my segment now?
Yes.
Cool.
Sure.
TBD.
Well, this is a segment where you guys
Don't
send us-
explain it. Don't explain it. Just go. Ask us the questions.
Okay, well,
ask us anything.
If you have questions, send them to us, please.
Oh yeah, you can
Oh,
either
how
do
do I
it.
do that?
You can do it at plus@livevertical.tv, or you can text me or Ben or Avery.
Or
Austin.
you can DM them to the Instagram page.
You
if
can
you
DM
want.
to the Instagram page,
There you go.
Facebook if you want. A few of us
Sure.
actually get those
Yeah.
because we're all admins. Sucks.
Perfect. Okay.
Hey, what time does the stream start? Same,
Every week.
Same time as last
Every
week.
week. Every week. Okay. This first question. What would you do if you won the lottery? But there are some rules here.
Better be, or I'm not
I'll
interested.
take it. This is my favorite question.
You have to use it for yourself. Like you can't donate it or
Shoot.
like
My
anything
answer
like
is
that.
always, I'm just gonna donate
no.
10% of it to Vertical Church and then just coast.
You have to
Dang.
use it for yourself.
You just come to work and coast. Like, say something. Say something to me. Like, I funded this place.
I gave you all the TVs you wanted.
So you have to spend it on yourself.
Are we
Yes.
doing like the first thing you would buy, or because we've done that before?
No,
but it also could have changed.
I mean, you can invest it, but it has to be for yourself. I personally would buy land somewhere. I think build a house somewhere, like in the mountains or overseas or something.
As your primary home?
I don't know. Maybe it would depend on what.
Thanks for clearing that up.
It would
It could
depend
be.
on what
I don't
stage
know.
in life.
Maybe.
If we're
Depends on how
still
I'm feeling.
contracted to the Air Force, then no.
Oh, that's true. That's true enough.
You could pay them to get out of that.
The last time I
at that
answered this
point.
question, it did involve buying land and building something.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a cabin. Yeah, I don't know. This question kind of frustrates me some because I'm like, this is never going to happen. And if it did, I would probably make a very different decision than I would say sitting right here.
So, like, doing something for my wife that breaks the rule, right?
It can be for your family.
That
Okay.
helps you, yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't. Yeah, it does. I'll still be a little selfish with it.
Okay.
I would buy Rachel, my wife, of whom I'm married, the house she wants, but the caveat is
Twice.
Two of them. The caveat is that I still want it to be in a neighborhood because I really like living in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I do like your idea, and I'm going to steal it. I think I would build us a house in the mountains
Yeah.
as like a secondary thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm still going to work here. I just wouldn't be able to help myself, obviously for free. No, I would do
no.
it. No,
You're gonna pay me.
You're going to pay me. I want $10 an hour.
Okay.
But I'd be part-time and I would go to the mountains whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
That'd be great. No. After the mountain house, we're buying some land in the UK.
Yeah.
Out in the country, just outside of London.
You really did steal mine.
And that's where that'd be my third home.
No house in Maine?
No.
Okay.
I could just visit
Ooh,
Maine.
That'd be pretty. Yeah, I mean, if you were rich enough, you could.
Well, like at that point,
Look, I would go on vacations and then bring people with me.
yes.
Because that way it's still
Absolutely.
like for
I don't
myself,
like people that much.
but it's also
Well, you could just bring one person.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on vacations
Staff
and bring
retreat.
people with you.
Who would you vacation with first? Me or Austin?
I plead the fifth.
I won't be offended.
Well, let me put it this way.
Neither.
Austin's gear is like 2 above mine.
He definitely wants to. I just vacationed with Austin, and they definitely like to go places.
Yeah, so I'm like, I take things on vacation that are sedentary to do.
Are
like
our
reading.
families going, or is it just like me and you, or you and Austin?
All right, we're straying away from the
sorry,
question
sorry,
here.
sorry. Okay.
Ben's taking over the podcast.
Yeah, I do have an answer to this question though, and
Okay.
it's multidimensional. So the whole house, land thing, like set yourself up, live a comfortable life.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great. Everybody's doing that
Yeah,
first.
that's
everyone
fine.
would
2
do
other
that.
things that I would do. The first is I would try to convince, and I don't really have a preference on who. Even Thursday would be okay, but to try to convince a boot company that I would help design
Oh.
a piece of
Yeah.
footwear.
Like,
That would be
I
If you
fund
invest,
it.
if you
Yeah,
invest
if you
enough
fund
money,
it.
they'll let you talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to have my name on it or anything. I just want
Yeah.
to be in the room where this stuff is talked about.
Oh, yeah.
That would be awesome.
Here's what the 41-year-old male is looking for in these boots. You guys keep making them for like 27-year-olds.
That's right.
You gotta quit doing that.
Gotta stop. Yeah,
At
gotta
Vertical
stop.
Church,
Yeah.
guys.
All right. The other thing I would do is I would establish a publisher so that I could curate ideas that I believe the world should hear.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say so I could publish books whenever I wanted.
No. I did not have that much confidence. I would find very smart people saying very smart things, and I would just instantly inflate their influence in the world.
That's good.
That'd be a fun job.
Who's
to
first? Do you already have somebody in mind that's not getting enough attention?
Have. No.
Okay.
No. I've never really thought about it at that level. That would be fun though.
Yeah.
We've done that question twice now in two kind of variants. I think one day we should take this whole second segment and like chart out the first 15 things you would do in
And
order.
see if somebody will fund them.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, moving on. I'm really interested in your answer to this, Ben.
Oh, thanks.
And yours too, Chase.
Oh, great.
But more specifically, Ben.
What was it like to learn on a chalkboard? Like, is that where you're
I
headed?
cannot imagine. That sound would drive me insane.
Look, the teachers used to have
overhead.
these.
The
They had
overhead.
these things that they would put multiple pieces of chalk
and the
in.
lines.
Oh
yeah.
man, they never got that right.
No, I remember that.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
What is something you randomly have a lot of knowledge about?
It's got to be a random thing. I don't think woodworking is a random
No,
thing.
that's not random.
Or just something that like you wouldn't expect.
Wouldn't expect. Oh,
Yeah.
that changes it because most things that I have a lot of knowledge about, people are like, that fits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I know you have a lot of knowledge about audio engineering
Mm-hmm.
or guitar gear or whatever,
And pedals, yeah.
but you know something that's like
That would be like what's useless knowledge you have? Guitar pedals.
that's not useless.
Yeah, depending on who
okay.
you're talking to. Something I have a lot of knowledge about. That's
I mean, I've
surprising.
seen you teach Dalton how to play darts. So
Yeah, that. But I mean, you know,
That's been useful though, because you've used that like ministerially.
ministerially.
Is that a
Yeah,
word?
yeah, that's right. I know a lot about. Check out this word, numismatics.
okay.
Yes, the collecting of coins and
Oh,
variations.
you've talked not on here,
Oh.
but yeah.
My dad is an avid coin collector, and as a result, I know many, many useless pieces of information about money. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. People would not assume this about me, but I do know a lot about entry-level tractors because I drove one for a very long time, maintaining a piece of property. So I sheared a few pens in my life. People would not think that based on my attire, but yes, I do have some knowledge about that.
Yeah.
Ask the question again.
What is something you randomly have a lot of knowledge about?
Depending on how you define a lot of knowledge, I think I have more knowledge than probably 72% of the population in America about water purification and like water systems and
Yeah.
stuff.
That is true.
Because of my dad, who I worked for, technically my whole life I worked for him because I went all the time. But specifically for like a year and a half or 2 years, I worked with him, I guess technically part-time. He does like water system management for some rural water systems, but like 3 major hospitals in the Jackson area, his company is over.
It's important for that water to be purified.
Yeah, you better freaking believe it. He has to have it at a specific chlorine level to help out the dialysis people so that they can refilter it, for lack of a better word, when it gets into their system.
And if he can do that with Jackson water,
No, they have their own water system so they don't have to deal with Jackson water.
that's what I'm talking about.
They spent
smart.
millions of dollars to avoid all that
There you
crap.
go.
Yeah.
So what we've both said independently is that our fathers have passed along to us an incredible amount of useless knowledge.
That I will never ever use.
Yep.
I'll just say things when people ask questions, be like, "Oh yeah, so the chlorine level of that." So the reason, and then
Yeah.
why do you
You're
why do you know
guy.
that?
What's funny is I know that if Owen, my oldest, were sitting at this table, he'd be like, confirmed. Fathers pass on a lot of useless knowledge.
Yes.
Did he get all 50 states quarters when it was coming out?
Owen?
No, your dad.
No, he was, there's no money in that.
Oh, he's doing it for money. I thought he was just curious to have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's that collector that's got like, there's only 2 of these in the world, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
now I'm a little interested.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, you know.
I think mine. I'm kind of embarrassed to say mine, but I couldn't think of anything else, so I'm just going for it.
You know a lot about bicuspids, don't you? Molars.
No. As a kid, I loved horses.
Oh yeah, horse girl.
Yeah. So, and I like rode horses.
No way. Yeah,
So-
equestrian.
We should introduce her to Tom next door.
Yes, you would love Tom.
So I have like a ridiculous amount of knowledge about horses, like behavior, how to take care of them, all of that. Also, I was like obsessed with Animal Planet as a kid. Like I didn't watch Disney Channel, I watched Animal Planet. So I watched like dog shows.
Zaboomafoo?
Yeah, Zaboomafoo.
Zaboomafoo.
So I have a lot of random like animal knowledge that I don't necessarily use.
How do you feel
every day.
about the term breaking a horse?
I mean, it's a normal term.
Oh, nah.
Yeah.
Tom would disagree.
You gotta
Do you
break.
know anything about the platypus?
Marsupial.
Not much about the platypus.
Okay,
specifically.
all right.
But like Planet Earth, ooh, that was like.
All right.
Wow. Okay, let's
All right.
next question.
Yeah. Avery's getting excited.
Okay, wait. I realize now. Okay. Anyway.
Is there another question?
Yes.
Okay.
There
thank
were-
goodness.
Animal Planet.
Can you dig it?
Are you fired up?
We're gonna talk
I'm
about
fired up.
lemurs.
Meerkat Manor also. Okay.
Listen,
Sorry.
I'm about to just gift you this right here. Wild Kratts. Look them up.
Wild krats.
Wild
Kratts.
Kratts. Yeah, look them
Okay.
up. You'll
Get your
enjoy
head
it.
in the game.
Here's a better one. The wild thornberries. Look them up.
Okay.
Okay.
Instead of doing that, I'm gonna move on to the next question.
All right.
What is the best concert you've ever attended?
I've been to many concerts.
I know you've been to a lot, Ben.
Yeah.
Let me guess. Hold on. Can I guess?
I have two different kind of bests. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It's either gonna be Matchbox 20 when they shocked you at how much you liked them.
Shocked me.
Wow.
Shocked me.
I'm guessing I'm wrong though. Maybe one of them is not Foy Vance because he cut
No,
the
that
show
was,
early.
That was a bad concert.
Um,
Sorry.
gosh,
Luke.
what
Luke
is-
moved heaven and earth to get me to this concert, and it was terrible.
Yeah. What's ethereal guy that you and Luke went to?
Bon Iver.
Bon Iver. Is he one of them?
Okay.
I'm sure that was an amazing concert
Yeah,
if you've
let me-
seen Bon Iver.
Yeah, let me do this quickly.
Yes.
Bon Iver blew my mind.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
I
I
can imagine.
kind of forgot that I was supposed to be enjoying myself. I'm like, how does a human do that with music?
Yeah.
The most exciting, memorable concert I've ever been to was Dave Matthews in the Pyramid. Yes, it was in the Pyramid. Was like a Bass
Wow.
Pro Shop now, so I'm that age. But it was the first time I heard him play Watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. I mean, it really wasn't even Dave. It was Carter on the drums. I'm like, I just mind blown.
Yeah.
Right. The most impressive musician concert I've ever been to was actually at Thalia Miller Hall, and it was Alison Krauss. And the guy that plays
When was that?
oh gosh, probably 15 years ago now. But I will give credit. I don't know who you are, and you'll never hear this, but the audio guy at that concert, I've never heard him mix any better with all of those world-class musicians on stage.
Wow.
High praise.
How about you, Chase?
I haven't been to very many concerts. The one I was most excited about and had the best time at was Cage the Elephant.
Oh,
They are
crazy
a
live.
fantastic.
I mean,
show.
he's like all up in the audience all
Matt
the
Schultz,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
That dude, yeah, he was proud to bring back the stage dive.
Yeah.
Favorite
Oh
thing,
yeah.
easily.
Yeah. I follow them on Instagram and I always see their pictures, and he's just always in the crowd.
They just
Like
they have
in
extreme
the crowd.
yes, they have extremely exciting music.
Yeah.
It's one of the very few extremely indie sounding bands that I really like crazy vibrato, tremolo,
And good
stuff
guitars.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I'll never forget getting in Chase's car for one of the first times, and he looked at me and he goes, "You okay with Cage the Elephant?" I was like, "I guess so."
We'll find out.
Here we go.
Yeah, Cage the Elephant.
Yeah. I think y'all could guess mine, but I have two. So I saw Paramore for the first time in 2015 front row, and it was amazing. Haley Williams gave me a high five.
You know where the worst mix is in the whole house?
Huh?
Front row.
Yeah. But you were close to the star.
But I was like literally
just messing with
so close. So I mean, obviously that was an awesome concert because it was my favorite band and first time to see them. And they were touring on their self-titled album, which is one of my favorite albums.
It was before they were mad at each other. It's great.
I don't know about that. But in 2013, they toured with Fall Out Boy, Paramore did. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to go see them, and I drove like to Dallas, and I got there, and Haley Williams had like gotten sick and had come down with like strep throat or something, and so they did not perform, which I was obviously very upset about. But because of that, Fall Out Boy extended their set by like 10 songs and played for like 3 hours.
And that was back when Fall Out Boy hadn't become modern day Fall Out Boy.
Yes, this was like
they're good.
Yes. And so I mean they played songs that they hadn't played in years, and like they did covers, and it was an awesome show.
Did they play Beat It?
They did.
Oh my gosh.
They did.
One of the few Michael Jackson covers that was actually worth the time.
That was I'm actually pretty sure that was their closer. Like that was the last song they did. It was really epic.
That's one of the most exciting things about concerts, actually.
You know who played the guitar solo for Beat It for Fall Out Boy? Just guess.
Mayer.
John Mayer.
Oh, stop it.
Fantastic.
I actually saw Mayer live,
there, but
and it did. Mayer's doesn't make my top 10 because it was when he had first.
He hadn't figured out.
He was still Coffee House John.
Yeah,
and it was not. I mean, he was still great, but not as good. I had a similar experience in that I was supposed to see. Check this out. I was supposed to see Bush and No Doubt.
Oh,
what?
Yes, they were touring together, and that's when like the relationship started.
What year was this?
96 maybe. I don't know.
Gosh,
Bush and No Doubt.
That is awesome.
Bush and No Doubt. Well, they were touring together and like dating and stuff. That was all beginning. But listen, what happened? So No Doubt gets called up to the David Letterman to be on David Letterman, the Late Show, and they replaced No Doubt with Goo Goo Dolls.
Ooh.
When?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, but also it would have been sad to not see No Doubt.
Maybe so, but I mean,
Goo Goo Dolls at that time.
Yeah. No,
Stout.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But
I've never smelled so much marijuana in my entire life.
That's probably the only time you've been high.
Contact high, I think. I was like, I don't know. Maybe the concert wasn't that
good.
Concert
That's
I've
why
ever
it
been
was
to.
the best concert. All right. I feel like we could talk about this forever. So
yeah, okay.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Recommends?
Yeah.
Great.
Recommends.
Alrighty then.
Heidi ho.
No, that was the beginning.
Yeah.
They're already welcomed.
We're way past
sorry.
that.
Yeah. Something in the key of C, blah, 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 blah. Recommends.
If you're still with us, sit back down. We're not finished yet.
Oh, no. After that middle segment, they're great. Great segment. All right. First off, thank you, Janice. Thank you for saving not only Christmas, but this final segment of our podcast by giving us this great formula for things to recommend. Something you should wear. Sorry, something you should want, the other W.
Yep.
Something you should want, something you need, something you gotta wear, and something you just absolutely have to read.
Yep.
Unless you're not a reader, then that's okay
You can listen
too.
to it.
Yeah. All right. Want, need, wear, read. Want is me. Oh, buddy. All right. I'm starting it off. Really soft. All right. I want you guys to really be able to
Warm us up.
pull it up to exciting stuff. We've talked about this guy before. Sam Harris, world-renowned atheist.
What kind of podcast is this?
Yeah.
Religious.
Yes.
Spicy religious.
Yes. That's
But
actually
also
a section.
sports, food, music, whatever we want.
That's a section on Spotify. Spicy religious.
I wish.
Yeah, that'd be
Man,
awesome.
that would be our one goal.
Yep.
Sam Harris, world-renowned atheist, is great at picking bones with different things in the world. We did an entire series based off one of his books, Austin's Favorite Atheist. His podcast, how do I describe it?
How do you describe it?
Very intelligent. You feel
Yes.
smarter after listening to it, but
Absolutely.
gosh dog is he dry. But I'm going to recommend an episode. It's only 30 minutes, which is not actually 29, which is pretty short. I think that's a pretty easy listen. That's 2 rides to work, that you can finish it. It's the episode A Few Thoughts for a New Year. He does a fantastic job of putting thoughts that I've had onto audio waves, I guess, and probably paper. He probably typed it too. But he just, all these different conflicting, partisan, everybody yelling at each other things that have just been so freaking frustrating about the past year. He says, screw you to all of it, and just goes right down the middle and says some really smart things. It makes you feel like you're not crazy for being somewhere in the middle of all the noise.
Yeah. I'm going to have to listen to that.
He gives a really good perspective on, making efforts to do your own research, how hard it is to find the truth in a lot of today's muck that we have to go through. So overall, I've just really enjoyed listening to it overall. It's not like a doom and gloom thing. It's just come on, let's do better kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I think the best way to describe him is like he's as smart as Malcolm Gladwell, but he's not as entertaining at all.
Way less charming.
Yeah, not as charming. But still, after you finish an episode, you'd be like, I'm pretty glad I listened to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and starting off with that one's pretty good. But man, the first couple of episodes, I was like, this guy is putting me to sleep.
He's
man.
dry.
Yeah, you got to get there intellectually, which is hard to do.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so next we go to need.
Yeah.
Okay, I should probably mention that the responsibility for this need actually falls to Scott Foreman.
Amada's husband.
Amada, who works here.
Scott with the beautiful hair on stage.
Silently holds things together. Which, by
if
the way,
you see a picture on our Instagram of a beautiful man with great hair, it's Scott.
It's Scott.
Yeah. If you ever question, like, should church have lights like that? And you see those lights go through that man's hair, worth
everything.
Some of my best pictures.
Yeah,
Or of
exactly.
Scott.
Yeah. So
Because of him.
there was a track in the pre-post yesterday that I walked in and, man.
It caught you.
Yeah, it was peppy. And I was actually grilling last night and listening to these guys on the patio as well. I'm probably going to butcher their name, but it's spelled Teskey.
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 Teskey Brothers. Right. Yeah, Teskey Brothers. The track that caught me was So Caught Up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those like, man, that's good. And you're thinking.
Play it on your mic real quick.
Yeah, let's see.
Saxophone.
Yeah, it's got a lot of soul. Copyright?
Shoot.
Oh yeah, are you gonna get copyrighted?
Sorry, we'll
Probably
stop that.
it's okay.
Sorry.
We're not monetized.
Yeah, but the whole album is like, you think it's just like a one-off, but you listen to the album, you're like, oh man, these guys have soul.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah,
just very different.
just that 15 seconds. I'm like, all right, I will be listening to
You
that.
sold.
Yeah.
So that would be the need. I think there's a need for people to experience really great music because it throttles back exactly what you were talking about with your first recommend.
Yeah.
Like everybody needs to get some good music and calm down.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for you.
That's good. That's good. Good recommend.
Where? Yeah. So
Just say here. Here.
Here.
Where? Here.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyways, so if you know me, you know that I pretty much wear black jeans every day.
Yes.
And have for like.
Sometimes you wear those baggy blue jeans though.
Yeah, I have those. Those are a new thing.
Yes, they are.
But having good quality jeans is pretty important to me just because I wear them so much. And I've recently switched brands. And I've been pretty loyal to. I've been.
That's a much bigger deal than it sounds like.
It is.
The weight of how she said it was like, I've switched brands.
Recently switched brands.
I'm pretty loyal to brands.
It was personally. Levi's, right?
No, it was BDG from Urban Outfitters. And
yeah, her
pardon
husband's
us.
a dentist.
Yeah, pardon us.
But I have recently bought like a whole new set of jeans, and they're Madewell, which they're not. It's not new.
Are they Madewell?
Yes,
Oh.
they are. absolutely the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn in my life. And like, I can tell they're good quality and that they're going to last long. Like I don't have the test of like, these lasted me for 5 years, but I love them already. And
Are they just for women?
no, they have men's too. But they're super high quality and like they're really comfortable. They're stretchy, but they don't like look like they're stretchy, if that makes sense.
Is this where we talk about Michael McQuillan making fun of my spandex percentage?
You can if you want, because he'll never listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, don't most?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Most
Thank you.
pants nowadays have a little bit of elastic.
That's
in
what
it.
I thought,
Yeah.
but he was
Yeah.
completely taken aback. He questioned everything he thought about me with that one fact.
But they have every style of jeans color that you could dream of.
Madewell.com.
Yeah,
I don't know, where do you find
Madewell.com.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Do they like? Can you order online, try it on? If it doesn't work, ship it back.
Yeah, and they
Easy
have like
peasy.
they have other clothes, and they aren't the cheapest jeans, but you can tell that they're really good quality. So it's
Well, it's not like Urban. No, I almost made fun of you. No
can, it's
other
fine.
thing in the market upcharges things like Urban Outfitters does.
Oh, absolutely.
Gosh,
well,
it's
and
crazy.
like all of the jeans that from Urban Outfitters that I bought, I mean, they're years old, so it was like it was time for a change. But yeah, I would recommend them. They're super.
I've been
comfy.
asked if black denim is a requirement to be on staff here.
I don't wear mine anymore, so it's okay.
Yeah,
But
I
you have
think,
black joggers, so
But I wear other ones.
You know
but
what's
on
going to
Sunday I
destroy
do.
Chase is if I start wearing joggers and be like, oh great. Now
No,
I, gotta
I
give those up.
appreciate when people follow me in the battle.
He wants-
Scott
Oh, yeah.
Foreman
he
is
wants
currently
to turn
in
people
line.
to the dark side.
Yeah. Have you had joggers? They're great.
Speaking
some
of
Adidas.
comfort, here we go. All right, we don't have time.
Read?
All right, read. I am currently listening to, by the way, discovered Audible, and man.
Does it
Discovered.
change your life?
So yeah, the first time I
I
tried
recently
it,
discovered iTunes. Wow.
right.
Any music
Man,
I want.
I recommend
iPhones.
Spotify,
We landed
which
on
is
the
probably
moon.
what you're listening to us on right now.
So let me clarify that. The first time I tried Audible years ago, it was in the car only, and I've discovered I cannot listen to books in the car because my mind wanders from driving and all that.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a walk or something where I'm not operating heavy machinery, I can stay in it. So I'm listening to a book that a guy that's really, really influencing me, Mark Sayers. He's actually a pastor in Australia. He's got a book called Reappearing Church. Reappearing Church.
Teleportation.
Anyway, you should read it. If you're frustrated or confused by the church, the American church, the Western church, I should say, like we started this episode out, this book is going to decode why things have happened, how they have happened. Also, how to get out of where we are.
I love some good action items.
He is really, really smart. You guys have heard of This Cultural Moment?
Yep.
So he's on that, and I don't want to say the brains, that would be disrespectful to the other people.
Yeah.
But you can tell there's
His fingerprints on it pretty
there
heavily.
are three guys on that podcast. When Mark starts talking about the history of the church, everybody else shuts up.
It's kind of like when I start talking on this podcast.
Identical.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Same
That's
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
He's got to be smart.
He is very.
All right.
I
Sorry.
don't know
I was
how,
just
many, how
pulling
much he knows
from
about.
your
I don't know how
recommend-
much he knows about coronation, but I mean he's pretty smart.
Probably not enough. Which brings me to my seminar on water chlorination. What you're going to want to do.
Is in this podcast.
Okay,
Now.
deal.